Howdy folks, welcome back to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. We skipped last week's episode. Unfortunately, I was suffering from the cold and talking just hurt too much. Had a very, very nasty throat infection, but I'm a lot better now. Still not feeling 100% right, but easily well enough to start putting videos up again. And I do owe you an episode of Mingles with Jingles, so here it is. Now, those of you who have been following the updates that I've been posting on Facebook and listening to previous episodes of Mingles with Jingles will be aware that I've been having problems with my ISP lately. Basically, there's far too many people using the available cable in the area. My ISP are upgrading, they're laying fresh cable in the area, but it's an ongoing process. They said it's going to take them until the end of October to get everything finished and get the service back up and running to the way it should be. In the meantime, I've pretty much been completely unable to play games like World of Tanks and War Thunder. Horrendous packet loss. When you're playing a game like that, you need a stable connection, otherwise you end up driving off a cliff, or sitting there completely unable to control your tank, for example, while you're getting shot at, and it's a waste of time even trying to play. Unfortunately, it's a really bad time to not be able to play War Thunder and World of Tanks, because patch 9.3 just came out for World of Tanks, and 1.43 is now out for War Thunder. And it's not only that, games like Elite Dangerous, they're well into the final stages of the beta test. Star Citizen, the new race mode in that, badly want to have a go, but you just can't play it if you're suffering from a lousy internet connection. And I did get a bit carried away when patch 1.43 came out for War Thunder and completely forgot that my ISP sucked. and tried to have a go at one of the new race modes, with predictable results. Aircraft's not responding. Aircraft suddenly decides to fall out of the sky for no apparent reason. What the hell's going on? Oh yeah, that's right. My ISP sucks at the moment. Great. So, given that, I haven't been able to play War Thunder or World of Tanks for the last couple of weeks, and I'm not going to be able to play them for a couple of weeks more, I've had to look further afield for other games that aren't quite as reliant on a strong, stable, reliable network connection. And that pretty much means either single-player games or MMOs. And by a coincidence, Star Wars The Old Republic just announced the new expansion. It's coming up in time for Christmas, with the news that subscribers who pre-ordered the expansion will get a 12 times experience boost when they're doing their story missions. So I thought, well, I'll have a go with that. And, well, I was just reminded of why I like Star Wars The Old Republic, but sometimes it's just ridiculously stupid. Look at this, that's me sitting right next to an Imperial sensor, not 20 meters away from an Imperial sensor expert. I think that guy should seriously... Look, here I am. I'm right here. Seriously, you're in the wrong line of work. And the game is littered with stuff like this that's just so bad it's hilarious. It's as if the quest designers just thought, alright, that'll do. I can't be bothered to sort out the details. Later on here, I'm on the planet Voss, and the Voss's enemies, the Gormak, had built this huge laser cannon, which is a massive threat to the Voss. How exactly? They've built it at the end of a box canyon. There's solid rock walls on three sides. It can only fire in one direction. And it's a laser weapon. It's a directed energy weapon, so it's a line of sight. The Voss capital is over the horizon. This thing's no threat whatsoever. The game's just full of stuff like this where they just didn't think it through. Or there's this, and I've lost track of the number of times this has happened. Force field. Can't get through. Need to find a way of turning it off. Oh look. Somebody left the off button outside the force field. Again. And then there's this. And I realise I'm picking the details here, but this is the rocket tram on Corellia. Why is it called a rocket tram? It's not a rocket. I mean, look at it. It's running on rails. It's a maglev tram, if anything else. Oh, but Jingles, they just call it a rocket tram because rockets are fast. And no, they're not. Not in Star Wars, they're not. This isn't Buck Rogers in the 25th century, it's Star Wars. They're not flying around in rocket ships, they're flying around in ships with ion drives and hyperdrives. I mean, call it the hypertram, that would make sense, but if you call it the rocket tram, I mean, that's such old technology. In the Star Wars universe, it's like inventing a quad-core computer processor and calling it an electric abacus. It does not evoke a sense of speed in the context of this universe. And it just, stuff like this is so poorly thought out. And the game's littered with it. Here's another one. This is an anti-infantry laser turret. Now let's not forget that Star Wars The Old Republic is set 3,000 years before the events of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Return of the Jedi. So, how does the pace of technology progressed in 3,000 years in the Star Wars universe according to the designers of Star Wars The Old Republic? Yeah, they're really just not trying here, are they? It's like, yeah, we need people to design assets for our new Star Wars MMO. Imagination, not necessary. Just to put this into context for you, okay, here is cutting-edge weapons technology today, and here is cutting-edge weapons technology 3,000 years ago. See the difference? Yeah? Okay. And I'm sure that somewhere out there in the massive pile of drivel that is the Star Wars expanded universe, there's some kind of bullshit fanboy apologist explanation for why there has been absolutely no technological development in 3,000 years in the Star Wars universe, but the real reason is because the designers are just lazy. And you know what, if it was just laziness, that wouldn't be so bad. I can sympathise with laziness, I'm lazy as well, but they're also damn stupid. Look at this. This is a proximity sensor. In this quest, I have to disable a bunch of proximity sensors before I can continue my mission. And just in case, because I know a lot of people listening to these Mingles with Jingles videos, that English is not their first language. So just to be sure that everybody completely understands exactly what it is they are looking at here, a proximity sensor is something that detects people when they get close to it. Look at me. Look at that. In order to disable that sensor, you have to walk up to it and then tamper with it. Well, no, clearly you don't, because it doesn't detect me as I'm walking up to it. So I don't need to disable it at all, because it's shit. It doesn't work. Oh, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Star Wars The Old Republic, but holy shit, it's stupid. It's like the computer game equivalent of a movie that got stalled halfway through and Brett Ratner was called in to finish it off. You know, like the third X-Men movie. It's that kind of dumb. It really, really is. But it's not a bad game, you know. So, you know, given that there's only so much stupid I can take in one sitting before I have to go and read a book or something, I can't play that much Star Wars The Old Republic in one go. And I can't play World of Tanks or War Thunder at all at the moment. So I went back to Guild Wars 2, and as you can see with young Inga Svensdotter here, I've finally managed to get a character to level 80. This is my Norn warrior. And I really do like Guild Wars 2, although I've never really had enough time to devote to it until recently. It looks fantastic. They've really, really nailed the art style with this game. It looks timeless. When games like Age of Conan came out that were, you know, cutting-edge graphics at the time, you look at them now and they look terrible. Star Wars The Old Republic doesn't look that good, and it's a relatively recent game. Games like World of Warcraft had the right idea. You know, they went for a cartoony graphic style, which is going to age well, but even World of Warcraft's starting to look a bit clunky now. They're upgrading the graphics in World of Warcraft in the next expansion, but Guild Wars 2 just looks, I mean, wow. It just ages really well. They've gone for that perfect balance between realistic and cartoony. And Guild Wars 2's got a lot of other interesting features. For one thing, it doesn't matter what level you are. You will always level down to whatever the level of the area that you're in is, which might sound like a very, very bad idea, but if you think about it, what it means is you can level up anywhere. This is Queensdale. It's one of the starting areas. And I could still, well, if I wasn't level 80, but it's leveled me down to an appropriate level for the monsters and bad guys that I'm fighting in this area. And it means that, for example, if I was like level 70, I'd still come to Queensdale, do the quests here, and gain experience and level up at exactly the same rate as if I was running around a level 70 area. What it also means is that if, for example, you've got a friend who starts playing the game as well, and you want to level up with them, you want to play with them while they're leveling their character up, you can. It doesn't matter what level your character is, they will always be the same rough level as the people that you grouped up with, because the level that you play at is determined by the area that you're playing in, not what the level that your character is. Yeah, it's full of neat little touches like that. It's a really, really well thought out game. It's the complete opposite of Star Wars The Old Republic. The combat system is really, really clever as well. When you look at games like World of Warcraft, Star Wars The Old Republic, the control bars, the buttons that you have available to click on, there's dozens of them, and it can be very, very intimidating. Well, that never happens in Guild Wars 2. You can see the very limited range of buttons that I have available to select at the bottom of the screen. And that's because the attacks that I have change depending on which weapon I have equipped. So I can have a huge range of options, I just have to equip a different weapon. I mean, at the moment I'm going with rifle and greatsword, but I could have a sword in one hand and another sword in the other hand, and then I'd have main hand sword attacks in my first 3 buttons and offhand sword attacks in my last 2 buttons, or I could have a sword in one hand and a mace in the other hand, and then I would have offhand mace attacks available on my last 2 buttons, or swap them around, and so on and so on. It's a very, very well thought out system, and it avoids having that, oh my god, there's just so many things to click on, oh, where's the featherfall button, I can't remember, how many times have you been playing World of Warcraft, for example, and you've jumped off a cliff to get away from some bad guys as a mage, and suddenly you can't remember where your featherfall button is. Well, that'll never happen when you're playing Guild Wars, because there's only so many different things available to click on, and all depends entirely on which weapons you have equipped. It's a really, really neat idea. It's also a free-to-play game. I think you pay for the original game download, then after that there's no subscription. It supports itself through microtransactions. I definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun to play. And there's a couple of other games I've been trying out lately as well. Most of the MMOs are free-to-play MMOs. One of them is Ion. I like Ion. It's not a bad game. It reminds me a lot of Guild Wars 2, despite the button overload that you can see there. But it's one of those games with a very distinctive, some might say, dodgy art style. This is Alessandre. She's my cleric. It's my highest level character at the moment. She's level 39. Now, as a cleric, Alessandre gets to wear chainmail armour, and the chainmail armour doesn't look quite as bad as as the leather and the cloth. But here, look at this. That's not armour. Look at that. That's not armour. That's a chainmail cocktail dress. And I love the idle animations in this game, by the way. Look, she's covered in dust, and we're in the desert, so she's wiping all the dust off. When it starts raining, there's a different idle animation depending on the environment that each character is in. It's full of neat little touches like that. Now, chain and plate armour wearing characters don't look quite as provocative as the leather and cloth wearers. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a minute. It's very, very safe to say that a lot of people are probably going to be playing Ion because they love the way the female characters look. For much the same reason that a lot of people get turned off by anime because of the way the female characters look. A lot of people are going to get turned off by Ion because of the way the female characters look. And I fully understand that, by the way. I've gone for a conventional look on all of my characters. You can have your characters looking like little girls. And some of the cloth and leather armour is, let's just say, it's not something any little girl should ever be seen wearing in public. It's that kind of game, yeah. We'll just pop to the character selection screen and I'll show you the sort of thing I'm talking about. I think it's fairly safe to say that the art style in Ion is going to be the thing that either makes you want to play or makes you not want to come within a country mile of this game. I mean, there's your chainmail armour. It does look vaguely practical, even if it is highly stylised, but the cloth armour... Nope. Not at all. The leather armour, I mean, that's quite a conservative example of a female character wearing leather armour, but she is going to catch her death of cold wearing that. And back to Alessandre in the slightly more sensible chainmail. But even the chainmail looks like a chainmail version of a cocktail dress, and that is the art style of Ion. You know, like it or not, that is how the game looks. Of course, the other thing that got people very excited about Ion when it first came out was the promise of all the characters being able to fly, although you can only fly in certain areas and you can only fly for a very limited amount of time, which was a bit of a bummer. But it's not a bad game. It's not bad at all. If you can get past the art style, and for most people, the art style is going to be the killer. It's either the thing that makes them want to play or the thing that makes them not want to play. Free-to-play game, though. Unlike Guild Wars 2, there's no price to pay up front. You just download the game, and it's completely supported through microtransactions. I like it. It's not hard to see why. I'm nothing if not predictable. Hey, but at least I'm honest. So yeah, we're going to leave me shaking my ass in Verteron Citadel here in Ion and have a look at something else that I've been playing while suffering from internet problems. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get any in-game screen capture software to work with this war game. It's called Unity of Command. It was actually recommended to me by the journalist who interviewed me for the Armchair General interview that I did a couple of weeks ago. I've always liked turn-based war games. And I mentioned that some of my favourites had been the Panzer General games from SSI many, many years ago. He immediately recommended this. Unity of Command. It's available on Steam. It's really, really good. I have actually been trying to get back into turn-based wargaming over the last couple of months, but all the games that I've tried have just been far too complicated, and so when Matt Richardson, the journalist from Armchair General, recommended this, I had a go, and it's perfect. It's absolutely exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. It's very, very easy to get into, but not easy, so you know it will take you a while to master it. It's absolutely perfect. It's exactly the sort of thing I was looking for. And I also happen to have some Steam codes for it, so you can get it for free on Steam. Not just the game itself, which is the Stalingrad and the Caucasus campaigns, but also the Russian counteroffensive DLC pack. I've got codes for that as well. So popping up on screen right now are the Steam codes for the core game. And remember, once these are gone, they're gone. It's first come, first served. In addition to the core game codes on Steam, we also have Steam codes for the Russian counteroffensive campaign pack. And as if that wasn't enough, we've also got another 4 codes to activate the Operation Barbarossa 1941 DLC campaign pack. Now, all of these codes are activated on Steam, and obviously I can't control the order in which people grab these codes. Once they're gone, they're gone. If you're lucky enough to manage to activate one of the campaign packs, but you haven't been fast enough to get the core game pack, then you're going to have to buy the core game in order to take advantage of the campaign pack DLCs. You know, common sense applies. I have no control over how quickly and in what order people grab these DLC keys. But that's all courtesy of Matt Richardson over at Armchair General, so thanks very much to him for that. And I hope you guys enjoy the game. It's a great introduction to strategy wargaming. Of course, there is another game I've been playing lately, which is absolutely ideal when you have a crappy internet connection because it's 100% offline, and that's Alien Isolation. And oh boy, oh boy, this game has been responsible for the biggest laundry bill. Those of you who have been enjoying watching my playthrough of this on YouTube have been wetting yourself laughing at me undergoing moments like this.
Stay focused.
Unauthorized access detected. Security lockdown initiated.
No, that's not good. No alarms. Alarms are bad. No noise. Noise is bad. Oh, shit. This is a seriously scary game. I am so bad at scary games. But it's Alien, you know. Most of these... I've played games like this before. Games like Amnesia, The Dark Descent, games like Outlast, and well, I say I've played them. I played the first half hour, and then I just had to stop because they scared me too much. But I will keep playing this because it's Alien, and I love Alien. I mean, I even liked Colonial Marines, and Colonial Marines was a terrible game. It really was a bad game, but I played it through all the way because it was Aliens, and I'm just a massive, massive fan of, well, the first movie, Ridley Scott's Alien in 1979, and the 1986 sequel by James Cameron, Aliens. Those two movies are absolute classics, and I will keep playing through this. And a bit of a spoiler alert here, this is from an upcoming video that I've uploaded, but I haven't actually made it public yet. So you've got this to look forward to. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been getting up to while my internet connection has sucked. Next, before we move on, This, and I do apologise if I'm mispronouncing your name, but this is Dusan Todorovic, and he's from Serbia. And he's been having a bit of a hard time this last year. And in an effort to cheer him up a little, his wife contacted me via my Gmail email address, the address that everybody sends their replays into, and asked me if I could send him a postcard. And so that, sitting on top of his monitor, is the postcard from me, which I bought when I went to London to visit Google UK. So the visit to Google wasn't a complete waste of time. I did at least manage to get a postcard for Dusan here. And there he is, sitting playing his Bert the Avenger in World of Tanks with the postcard from the mighty Jingles on top of his monitor to spur him on to great success. Obviously, Dusan sent me the photograph. I was going to reply to him via email, but I thought, no, I'll save it for Mingles with Jingles. So, Dusan, you can thank your wife not just for the postcard, but also for the shout-out on Mingles with Jingles. She's a great girl. We'll look after her. Take care, and I hope things get better for you both. Right then, question time, I suppose. I mentioned it, well, not last week's Mingles with Jingles, because there wasn't a Mingles with Jingles last week. But I mentioned in the last Mingles with Jingles that, and you know, people are always complaining, Jingles, you never answered bloody questions in these question and answer videos. And yes, I know, guilty as charged. But at the same time, and while this is in no way, shape or form an excuse, you guys aren't asking that many questions. The last couple of Mingles with Jingles videos have basically just been everybody arguing in the comments over what it was that I had talked about in that particular episode of Mingles with Jingles. There's very, very few people actually asking questions anymore. So I did make an effort in the last Mingles with Jingles both to answer some questions and to, you know, encourage you guys to think of new things to ask me. And I haven't been disappointed. You've definitely risen to the occasion. So, cracking straight on with some questions that actually got asked in the previous edition of Mingles with Jingles is Link to Insanity. And he'd noticed, because he reads For the Record, Silent Stalker's World of Tanks blog, that one of the World of Tanks game developers was going into quite some detail about the whole idea of skill-based matchmaking in World of Tanks. And Link to Insanity wanted to know what I thought about the whole thing. Now, I have gone on record in the past as saying that I thought World of Tanks badly needed a skill-based matchmaking system. However, I have also gone on record in the past, a long time ago, as saying that World of Tanks badly needed to be more realistic. And, oh look, here comes War Thunder with more realistic tank battles. And everybody got very, very excited about War Thunder's more realistic tank battles until they started playing War Thunder's more realistic tank battles. And then a lot of people realised that actually they didn't want their tank battles to be that realistic at all, thank you very much. They were quite happy with the arcade nature of World of Tanks. And I strongly suspect that skill-based matchmaking might be one of those things that everybody says they really, really want until they get it, and then they realise that actually it's not quite what they were after at all. Now, it's usual at this stage for people on YouTube to start throwing around phrases like everybody wants this and nobody wants that, and I'm not going to do that because people are different. I'm sure that there are people out there who genuinely, you know, who know what they're getting themselves into and still want skill-based matchmaking in World of Tanks, but I'm equally positive that there are far, far more people who think that the idea of having skill-based matchmaking is exactly what the game needs, but they don't really understand what is going to happen if that becomes the case. All of those games where you've lost 5-15 to the enemy team, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, my team were utter noobs. If there was skill-based matchmaking in World of Tanks, the difference in skill level between all of the players on my team wouldn't be that extreme, and we wouldn't have lost that badly. Now, leaving aside the whole issue, that it's really, really interesting that everybody always says, wow, my team were a bunch of noobs. You never hear anybody saying, wow, the enemy team were really good. Funny that, isn't it? Well, actually, you do hear people saying it. Quickie Baby says it regularly whenever he loses a match. But most people never give credit to the enemy team for being good. It's always, oh, our team sucked. Our team were a bunch of noobs. Our team should go and uninstall, and so on, and so on, and so on. And, you know, that's something else I could talk about at great length, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to stick to the point. Skill-based matchmaking. Let us just say, for the sake of argument, that World of Tanks patch 9.4 hits the live servers tomorrow, and in 9.4 they have implemented skill-based matchmaking. Leaving aside the whole issue of how exactly do they determine what your individual player skill level is, and thus base your matchmaking off it, because that's another can of worms that we haven't opened yet. But let's just say they've solved that problem, and it works, right? skill-based matchmaking is in World of Tanks the very next time you press the random battle button. What exactly are the implications of that for you as a player? Well, let's take the game that you're currently watching as an example. I'm in a tier 7 Russian heavy tank. All of the tanks in front of me on this corner are higher tier than I am. I think there's a T25 AT up there. Other than that, they're all either tier 8 or tier 9. There was an IS-8, that's a T32. With me, I have a T69, a tier 8 medium tank. And the T69, the gun, is pretty bad. It doesn't have great penetration unless he's firing premium ammunition. If this was skill-based matchmaking, I'd be dead. Oh, you can't say that, Jingles, you can't be certain. Well, yes I can. If everybody on the enemy team plays at the same skill level as me, the only difference becomes what tanks they're driving. And if they're in better tanks, they're going to win. I mean, oh sure, on an individual game-by-game basis, then you're going to get occasions where people driving the best tanks have a sudden rush of shit to the brain, do something stupid and get killed, or end up being outnumbered and swarmed and overrun and killed. But if everybody is effectively the same player in an E75 is always going to beat the same player in an IS, because the E75 is a better tank. All of those epic replays and live streams you've watched where, for example, Quickie Baby or Circumflexers are utterly dominating all of the tier 8s and 9s above them while they're driving around in, for example, a Panther and carrying games while in bottom tier tanks, just would not happen anymore. It only happens now because there is no skill-based matchmaking and because they are so much better than the players in the higher tier tanks on the enemy team. If there was skill-based matchmaking, the players in the higher tier tanks on the enemy team would be just as good as them. And they're in better tanks. Skill-based matchmaking would mean that the guys in the lower tier tanks would constantly be dying over and over and over again. Sure, they'd be winning just as many games as they were losing because the higher tier tanks on their team would be taking up the slack because they're being driven by players who are just as good as them. But lower tier tanks, tier 7s in tier 9 matches, tier 4s in tier 6 matches would just be cannon fodder. The counter-argument to that is, well, go ahead and reduce the matchmaking spread. And this is something else that people have been arguing for since forever. Just have tier 6 tanks only fight other tier 6 tanks. Have tier 10 tanks only fight other tier 10 tanks, and so on and so on. Well, okay. But you're already restricting the matchmaker into only finding games where all the players on both teams are at the same arbitrary skill level, whatever the hell that is, as you. So you're getting longer game queues. And now you're restricting the pool of available players that the matchmaker can draw upon even further to only tanks of exactly the same tier as you. So, if you want to spend 6, 7, 8 minutes sitting in a queue waiting for the matchmaker to find a game for you, then by all means, go ahead and ask for skill-based matchmaking and reduced matchmaking spread in order to make skill-based matchmaking work, introduce it at World of Tanks tomorrow. But that's exactly what would happen. You'd be sitting there forever, staring at the matchmaking screen, waiting for the game to start. And that's not all. There are plenty of tanks in World of Tanks that are very, very powerful in their own tier, but that are balanced in that they're not that good the higher the battle rating gets. And we're looking, well, imagine what tanks like the E25 or the SU-122-244 would be like if all they ever saw was tier 7 games. Can you imagine how ridiculously overpowered those machines would be? And that's just 2 examples. The Type 59 as well. If the Type 59 only ever got into tier 8 games, holy shit. There are so many tanks in World of Tanks that are very, very good, too good, when they're top tier. But that would just have to be completely rebalanced in order to make this whole skill-based matchmaking thing work. Skill-based matchmaking is one of those things. It's the holy grail of World of Tanks that everybody says, oh, it'd be fantastic, it'd be great. And I have no doubt that there are a lot of people out there who would very, very much enjoy skill-based matchmaking if it were to happen. But it's people just don't think the implications through. There's a hell of a lot more to it than just having everybody on both teams playing at the same skill level, however the hell you determine what your skill level is, as you. There's so much more to it. It's not as simple as everybody thinks it is. And it's one of those things that I really do think And I was guilty of this myself. One of those things that everybody thinks is a great idea until they start thinking through the implications of what exactly it would mean to the way the game plays. So yeah, I'm not actually quite in as favour of the whole idea of skill-based matchmaking after having thought through the implications as I was at first. So great question. Hope the answer gave you all some food for thought. And if you have more questions, because I'm afraid I'm going to have to end it there, it's half an hour long now, then by all means I will make some kind of effort. I keep saying this in every video. I'll answer more questions next week. Next week answers one question. I'm sorry, I'm crap. But I had a lot to cover this week, and I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway. You know, keep the questions coming in. I promise, I swear, I'll be good this time. Next week, I will definitely answer more questions. So keep them coming in. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I've given you something to think about. And as always, take care on that battlefield. Watch your six, and I'll catch you next time.